our destiny, we solemnly declare. Side by side we stand, highlands of the blue Caribbean Sea. This our native land, we pledge our lives to thee. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation.
Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, it is in dying that we are born again to eternal life. Symbol of leadership. As an elected officer of the National Union of Government and Federated Workers, you are a symbol of leadership, setting the atmosphere and the tone of the organization. A good representative serves as an inspiration and provides guidance for those whom he or she represents. And here is my motto for success. Your work is your signature. Sign your name with excellence. According to the Occupational Safety and Health Act, Chapter 88, in the laws of Trinidad and Tobago, it shall be the duty of every employee while at work to ensure that he or she is not under the influence of an intoxicant to the extent that he is in such a state as to endanger his own safety, health, or welfare at work or that of any other person. And every employee should know this law. Any person who unlawfully and maliciously wounds or inflicts any grievance, bodily harm upon any other person, either with or without any weapon or instrument, is liable to imprisonment for 5 years, and this is taken from Offences Against the Person Act. Again, the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. As a representative, you should attempt to have management place signs like these in full view of every employee. Do not operate vehicle or equipment while under the influence of alcohol or other drugs. Now let us look at some of the challenges workers face. Workers have often been accused by management of insubordination, refusing to obey instructions, being lazy, being incompetent. But unless you, as a representative of the worker, are aware of the full issues surrounding these allegations, you will be shortchanging the employee when dealing with his or her grievance. Among the personal problems that people have are financial problems, family problems, example, with their spouse, their children, elderly relatives. They may also have health issues, including lifestyle diseases such as diabetes and high blood pressure, HIV and AIDS, and they may also have a problem of insufficient training and education. And then, of course, you have problems in the workplace, problems such as bullying, which is abusive conduct that is threatening, humiliating, or intimidating. You may also have work interference, such as sabotage, which prevents work from getting done, or verbal abuse and victimization. All that is part of bullying. Then, of course, you will have discrimination in the workplace, conflict with supervisors and co-workers, fear of job loss, and of course, occupational health and safety issues. And together with our personal problems, our workplace problems, all of us are faced with external problems such as traffic congestion or road rage, indiscriminate use of firearms in residential areas, gun-related robberies, muggings, carjacking, kidnapping, and murders, influence on our children by neighborhood drug bucks, high cost of living, inclusive of housing and food prices, and school violence and its effects on our children. Let us look briefly at the term enabling. Sometimes personal problems spill over into the workplace, but if it is a valued employee whose worth to the department has been invaluable, supervisors may opt to pay the worker for unauthorized leave, overlook complaints of non-performance, and delay any disciplinary action in the hope that whatever ails the worker will improve with time. This is termed enabling, and many of us are guilty of this at one time or another. Now, how are workers affected? Severance pay and gratuity benefits. It is not unusual for an employee who have had problems on the job to go home at age 60 with almost no money after having spent more than 30 years on the job, as their effective years service did not correspond with their calendar years. Hopefully, with your intervention and education of workers, this unfortunate situation will be eliminated. Then there is the national insurance pension. Several retirees have problems in accessing their national insurance pensions, yet workers who have paid a minimum of 750 weekly contributions towards the national insurance scheme will receive $3,000 per month at any time between age 60 and 65. To avoid delays in accessing their pension, it is best that you, as their representative, advise them to check with the NIB office when they reach 55 years of age. National insurance pensions are usually paid around the 16th of each month. Be, be cautious with alcohol and other drugs. Alcohol is a depressant. It's addictive, causes impaired judgment, heart and liver diseases. Marijuana causes altered perception, impaired judgment, and reduced motivation. Cocaine is also addictive and it causes damage to your nervous system. And heroin is addictive and creates a state of indifference. What causes addiction? Addiction can be caused through medicinal drugs, through use of prescription drugs with addictive qualities. Physical withdrawal symptoms occur when the body craves for the drugs. And psychological, even after the physical symptoms leave, there remains a craving for the drug. Now, what about the drug abusing employee? Is not an individual drug use his or her personal business? The simple answer to that is, since drug use, indiscriminate or not, affects almost everyone in our society, it has become everyone's business. Besides, management has the responsibility and the authority to insist upon certain standards within the organization. Domestic abuse. Too often, employees are unable to concentrate on their responsibilities on the job because of violence in the homes. One of the things on which many of us tend to agree is the inability of so many people to understand and deal with their emotions, so much so that issues at which some would smile can trigger off murderous intent in others. And among the lifestyle diseases, as I said, hypertension and high blood pressure, normal blood pressure is below 120/80. Blood pressure between 120/80 and 139/89 is called prehypertension. A blood pressure of 140/90 or above is considered high, while a systolic, which is the top blood pressure, or about 90 to 100, is considered low blood pressure. And the complications of high blood pressure include heart disease, kidney disease, what you include of renal failure, hardening of the arteries, atherosclerosis, eye damage, and stroke or brain damage. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease that occurs when insulin-producing beta cells within the pancreas are gradually destroyed and eventually fail to produce insulin. Type 1 accounts for 5 to 10% of all diagnosed diabetes in the United States and is increasing globally by about 3% each year. While it is most often diagnosed in children and teens, it is not uncommon for adults to be diagnosed later in life. Type 1 diabetes diagnosed in adulthood may be a form of slowly progressing diabetes called latent autoimmune diabetes in adults, or type 1.5 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes. People with type 2 diabetes are still able to produce insulin at diagnosis. However, the insulin they produce is unable to perform its primary job, helping the body cells use glucose for energy. Type 2 diabetes accounts for 90 to 95% of all diabetes cases in America. These diagnosed cases were once limited to adults, but the number of children diagnosed with type 2 is increasing as sedentary lifestyles and obesity continue to rise. Mental health. In Trinidad and Tobago, a recent study indicated that between 10 to 20% of children and adolescents are diagnosed with mental illness, quite high. 50% of those before age 14 years and 75% by their mid-20s. More than 60% will die prematurely from non-regulated illnesses like high blood pressure and diabetes. Heart attacks. A heart attack or myocardial infarction is permanent damage to the heart muscle. Myo means muscle, cardio refers to the heart. An infarction means death of tissue due to lack of blood supply. Symptoms of a heart attack include discomfort, pressure, heaviness, or pain in the chest, arm, or below the breastbone. Discomfort radiating to the back, jaw, throat, or arm. Fullness, indigestion, or choking feeling. May feel like heartburn. Sweating, nausea, vomiting, or dizziness. Extreme weakness, anxiety, or shortness of breath. Rapid or irregular heartbeats. You should take note of this because a number of workers between 30 and 45 suffer from heart attacks at one point in time. We now turn to prostate cancer. Notwithstanding all that we have heard of the dangers of tobacco and other cancer-causing substances, there is one type of cancer that continues to cause a great deal of concern within the medical community, as it affects a very large number of men during their most productive years. It is estimated that approximately 15.3% of men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer at some point during their lifetime, with swelling of the prostate accounting for urination problems in many men over the age of 50. That is why doctors recommend that men over 40 years should get tested every year, as early detection can mean the difference between life and death. A brief look at human immunodeficiency virus. It is estimated that there are over 20,000 people living with HIV in Trinidad and Tobago. Between 4,800 to 6,800 persons are currently on treatment. Our rate is 67%, which is very good because this is a high rate of treatment. Stress. Stress is a feeling you have when you face a situation you think you cannot manage. You can feel anxious, irritable, forgetful, sleepless, and unable to cope. Stress affects us in many ways, including emotionally, anxiety, depression, tension, and anger, the way we think, poor concentration, forgetfulness, indecision, apathy, and hopelessness. Behaviorally, increased drinking and smoking, insomnia, accident proneness, weight problems, obsessive compulsive behavior, nervousness, and gambling. Then, of course, you have communication problems in the workplace. Among the barriers workers face where communication is poor are physical barriers such as poor or outdated equipment, background noises, poor lighting, temperatures that are too hot or too cold, then attitudes, anger management problems, sadness, nervousness, needing to be right no matter what. And of course, the attitudes, the language. Even people speaking the same language can have difficulty understanding each other if they are from different generations or from different regions of the same country. Then slang, professional words, as in language that should be used only among professionals, being used among the ordinary worker, can even hurt communications when the best with the best of intentions. Then you have physiological barriers, such as ill health, poor eyesight or hearing difficulties, pain, then organization structures that are not clear, leading to lack of supervision or poor supervisory practices and training of workers. Then there is the assumptions. People sometimes make stereotypical assumptions about others based on their cultural background. Then, of course, ambiguity and abstractions overuse, which is leaving things half said, using too many generalizations, proverbs, or sayings, which can all lead to communications that are not clear and that can lend themselves to misinterpretations. Effective intervention. In spite of the Ministry of Health and other organizations offering free medical treatment and care at a number of facilities throughout the country, many employees continue to suffer the long-term problems associated with poor lifestyle choices. A helping hand can be a meaningful investment in order to restore that value and reduce the cost and inconvenience of training a new employee. How to know if a worker is drug dependent. The simplest way to prove a worker is not dependent on alcohol or other drugs is to challenge that worker to abstain for 7 days after payday. Why not make this a challenge even for yourself and see just how difficult it is for someone who is actually drug dependent? And you can use that for maybe Coca-Cola you love to drink, the chocolate, the cigarette, things that you find yourself doing regularly, the obscene language you always talk, always use. Why not make that a challenge and see how you can stay away from those things for 7 days? It should be an eye-opener. The inpatient alcohol detox is one option the employee has, and Cora's residential program offer patients everything they need to recover from alcoholism and other addictions, including housing and board for the duration of time that they are in treatment, plus activities, medications, and medical and psychiatric monitoring. One of the most dangerous substances to ever detox from is alcohol. During alcohol detox, there is a chance that a patient will become severely sick and could even suffer extreme medical conditions such as seizures, tremors, or very high fever. The body reacts to alcohol like no other substance, and for some, alcohol is considered the most addictive substance in the whole world. Then, of course, for those who may not be able to stay in the center, you have the outpatient detox, where unlike inpatient alcohol detox programs, outpatient alcohol detox programs do not provide housing or meals, but they do offer support, medications, medical intervention, and various other services which can be of benefit to the recovering addict. Can you guarantee that the drug abuser will be cured? No one can guarantee immediate success with drug abusers, who usually suffer from a variety of problems that make it difficult to overcome their addiction solely through willpower or counseling. However, the individual who commits himself to a long-term recovery plan that includes attitude and behavior modification almost always recover. Treatment at a recognized treatment facility, plus attending Alcoholics and/or Narcotics Anonymous meetings, can help you understand the cunning and baffling nature of addiction and guide you towards a drug-free lifestyle. Why do some people cannot get help? Most individuals cannot get help for drug use because of denial. It's difficult to admit that alcohol can have us beat. Easier to believe in evil, example, jealousy, phobia, spiritual forces, necromancy, etc. Family members, friends, and co-workers cover up for the affected individual. Employer pays worker for unauthorized absences from work. Employer approves multiple extended sick leave requests. Medical practitioner treats individual for false physical complaints, that is, presenting problems. Minimization, they accept there's a problem but deny its seriousness. And projection, which is easier to blame someone else. After treatment, what? Those who have succumbed to the disease of addiction must come to accept that recovery is their personal responsibility, and every effort should be made to follow a rigorous post-treatment recovery plan, as hoping for a miraculous cure because of medical or psychiatric intervention will just not happen. The secret to sobriety is simply this: if you don't drink alcohol, you cannot get drunk. Here is a prayer that has worked wonders for anyone who has had a concern and needed comfort. It has worked for me and thousands of others. It can work for you. It is known as the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. How to access the EAP? Here are some telephone numbers: 628-1617-8, extension 223, or 622-1221, extension 1260. And these hotlines are my personal telephone number, 796-3754 or 317-7881. Now, there are three ways to access the EAP: formal referrals by management and/or trade union because of work performance problems; informal referrals when management or trade union suggest you visit the EAP for advice; and self-referrals when you decide to contact the EAP for a confidential appointment. Thank you for viewing. You have been watching our EAP Leadership Training module.